Yo, what's good, everybody? Joey J. Ping here, checking in live, respectmyregion.com. Back on another episode of the RMR Podcast. Today, here on the 131st episode, we have Kenny Morrison, CEO and founder of CQ Drinks, formerly known as Cannabis Quencher and Venice Cookie Co. Both of those, in my world, are legacy brands, and CQ's been around long enough that is also here legacy as well. Kenny, welcome to today's episode. Thank you, and happy holidays. How are you?
Very good, Chuck. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I don't know why I did that sounding so odd like that.
Sounded
But
legit.
that was like the most legit. Like I feel like it was almost like that was scripted, but that just came out. Like I don't.
Bro, you're fucking. How many episodes now? 101?
This is 131.
131. See, you got this fucking doing it in your sleep.
We're doing it, man. We're doing it, bro. And Ken, I appreciate you being a guest. It's good to chat. You and I have been building a relationship over the last few years, and I appreciate the game you've given me in drinks and helping to understand the culture, community, and just the industry as a whole, and specifically the science and beverage as well. Before we dive into the interview today, Kenny, I want to show love to our sponsor, Seedless Media. They're a cannabis marketing agency that specializes in retail marketing and brand marketing, SMS, loyalty, ads, e-com, all these different things that ultimately grow revenue. And so big shout out to our sponsor there. Everybody, you can type in seedless.media in the URL to check them out. Go look at their case studies, reach out. Now, this episode's not about them though, Kenny. It's about you. CQ Drinks. And let's go ahead and before we dive into the full interview, I want to just touch on the thing that we just did recently together, which was the 100 milligram soda review that I just did here in California. And we were talking a little bit about how you are very, very proud of the science and flavor and the emulsion that your brand has for your sodas, right? And so can you talk to me a little bit about the fine balance that is high potency beverages with maybe not a lot of liquid, and help people understand and break that down of how tricky that can be to create a good tasting product there?
I mean, I think it's only tricky because it's a new science, right? Mm-hmm. By new, I mean like, I don't know, 10 years old.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably been emulsions older than that, but honestly, when we started making our drinks, we used what I called a drinkture, which was just an ethanol tincture.
Okay.
Right? We just took alcohol tincture and dropped it into the vat and made our drink that way. It was like a high potency tincture. And as we made stronger and stronger drinks, along with having ethanol based flavors, right? Like I'm getting off track here already, but lemon flavor is essentially a lemon tincture. When you put lemon flavor in a lemonade, it's lemon oil combined with ethanol, right? So when we were making a cannabis tincture combined with our lemon flavor or our other flavors that were alcohol based, when we started doing our residual solvents testing, we started finding out like, damn, these kind of have a lot of alcohol in them. We need to come up with more sophisticated tech to not meet, to still really be far away from being a non-alcohol, an alcoholic beverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got close to almost having, a 0.5% or 1 proof of alcohol in the drinks. But so, yeah, I mean, when emulsion started getting made, I felt very quickly like everyone's going to act like they have special tech. And at the end of the day, it's no different than when you and I first saw cannabis distillate for the first time.
Okay. So we're talking about like, it's 2025. We're talking about the last 15 years, cannabis infusion, cannabis extraction, the science, also the technology, the hardware, the knowledge, the human elements. That's pretty much the duration of all of this kind of coming together, and either the innovation or maybe the old school nature of it, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think, emulsions or the way people were dosing their drinks 10, 15 years ago was super basic. It was essentially a tincture of some sort, maybe a little glycerin. Some people are still just using lecithin, but it's definitely got a lot more sophisticated. And Yeah, we have something that we feel super strongly about. Obviously, for me, my North Star is just making it invisible. The same
Yeah.
way freaking Steve Jobs was always trying to make a laptop or an iPhone thinner and thinner and thinner till it was
Hmm.
almost kind of invisible in a way. I just want, the cannabis to be undetectable.
Yeah.
And, our competitors are getting closer to that.
We were talking about that specifically.
Yeah, we've gotten closer to that. And so, if I can find certain tricks that help us stay on the forefront of that, I think that's just where you got to be.
Absolutely.
And if you can make 100 milligram drink be freaking the emulsion, the cannabis be invisible in that,
Yeah.
like that gives us an edge on everybody else who just participates in the low dose hemp game. You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, we cut our teeth on high dose dispensary drinks, and there are strategic advantages to making a great tasting high dose drink.
I think you guys did a phenomenal job, right? I tried the cola. I tried Pabst Labs' root beer, which is Pabst is a major company corporation. With
Yeah.
the lab side of the business, I don't know, but it's made by PBR guys. Right at the end of the day, that quality of human branding, mindset, whatever. And then Mary Jones was also included in that. That comes from Jones Soda. I had to include that one because I'm from Seattle. So
Yeah.
I have to compare it. And they use cane sugar. They are known for using this cane sugar for their soda experience, for their craft experience. And then we had Keef, which is not a major corporation outside of cannabis. They are one of, just like you guys, one of the original cannabis beverage companies in the world.
Yep.
And
OG.
OG, and they are in a bunch of different states, as are you. And I
Yeah.
believe they're in another country too. And it's an exciting time because I like being able to get an orange soda. I like grape soda. I like root beers. I like Dr. Peppers. I was the crazy kid that would go get, the fountain drinks, put all the flavors of one soda of every soda.
Suicide.
Come on, man. Yeah, the suicide soda. I would do all that, man. And to think that you can now do that version of that, right, with these cans from various brands, it's exciting. Now, I look at my experience was with that review, and I'll walk everybody through. I vaguely remember my scoring: 8.4 for Keith. I believe Mary Jones was somewhere between 8.7, 8.9, and I think the Pabst Blue Ribbon when the Rooper was also down there in the eights as well. Yours made it up in the lower nines. I don't know what the perfect one would be. We're still looking for that, right? But when you think about flavor, taste, the pop on the can, like when we think about soda, there's a nostalgia to it, right, Kenny? There's the Coca-Cola, like the visuals at the movie theaters, and it's bubbling in your face right out of the cup, right? It's so carbonated and refreshing, and right, and it's just good old American fashion. When I popped your can, it was the most similar to a Coca-Cola experience from the can. Then you look at the branding of it, and you have this metallic gold, right? This reflective chrome. Yeah, look at this; it's beautiful. And you think about attractiveness on a shelf. This looks nice. It looks well branded. It looks quality, right? And it's those subtle differences, those subtle things that really set something apart. In addition to having the great flavor. Now, yeah, there it is the cola right there. For me, I love the iconography. This to me says a small craft business made this and they get it and they're speaking to their audience. Now, does that cola speak to the old senior person? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, right? But for me, as a 33-year-old person that likes exotic sodas, craft, collaborations, cool campaigns, that's got a bunch of cool creativity written all over it. And I'm
Thanks,
here
man.
and I'm here for that, bro. So
Thank
before we go any further, I want to just shout out the quality of the beverages. They did win that taste test. We'll call it that simple challenge. Both of your beverages beat the other ones. I tried to be as unbiased as I can. It's just fucking good. Now, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your absolute favorite flavor from your own brand. Sodas first, because you got the cola, the ginger ale. I know the other day you were big hyping on the ginger ale. What right now? What are you hot on when it comes to your own flavors and brand?
You kind of touched on soda as nostalgia. right? And like one of our little taglines when we talk about our sodas is like, tastes like your childhood, but this ain't for children.
Hey.
Oh, and that's kind of, for the most part, the whole experience you want in your drinks. And I think in edibles and in most things, like you don't need to change the game. Like, we got into edibles in 2008, and I knew then, like, the important thing was like just hit the greatest hits that exist outside of cannabis. And it's like, oh man, this is something I loved my whole life, and now it has cannabis. Great. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So, but cola, yeah, we're trying to copy Coke. Dr. Quencher, obviously trying to copy, Dr. Pepper or Mr. Pibb. But the one that like gets nostalgic for me was I was raised on Verner's ginger ale. I
Okay.
don't know if you know that brand, but
I'm not.
my mom got me on Verner's ginger ale as a little kid, and I've always just loved it. And turns out it's like a Michigan brand. And I didn't even know this when we formulated our ginger ale to taste sort of like, Verner's. But that's been a really super cool thing. And everyone in Michigan thinks of Verner's as kind of like a wellness, when you're sick, or, when
Yeah.
you're this, you have
You're
ginger
supposed to
ale.
take like ginger ale when your stomach's upset or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Ginger is
Yeah.
like known to settle the stomach. That's why you eat ginger when you have sushi, right? If you're going to eat raw fish, it might be a good idea to have a little antiseptic ginger
Mm.
and wasabi when you eat sushi. But anyways, to answer your question, the ginger ale I'm proud of just because it ties into my childhood. And then ironically, like the flavor that I have the most like pride of authorship about is our worst selling fucking flavor. And it's pear vanilla cardamom.
Oh yeah. That refresher.
Yeah, the spritzer. It's like,
The spritzer.
it's kind of like a foodie out of the box flavor that we sort of improvised and came up with, but it doesn't hit those nostalgic familiarity notes. So
No.
people are hesitant to try it. When people want a weed drink, they just want to go to something that's familiar,
Yeah.
right? Like a familiar old friend that's going to get them high.
Weed is a
So
safe space for a lot of people, and getting high or drinking is uncomfortable for a lot of people. Not
mhm,
everybody does alcohol. Not everybody smokes. Not even less people smoke weed than
yeah,
those two things combined. And so to find something that is more relatable, I totally understand that perspective from I use this phrase simple stupid, but like, you make products and it's like when I was doing our flour, I would buy strains that I knew people liked and I just had to meet my quality and I'd have to smoke it and try it.
yeah.
And that was the ethos of our brand was offer the popular strains or the flavors similar to like what you're discussing here now. Now, today we've got some actual planned questions. These are just the me freestyling ones. So I want to dive into some of these fun ones that we've got.
Cool.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about your background. We're going to talk a little bit about your come up. We're going to talk about the brand. I've got some fun questions too. Is that okay?
Hell yeah.
Beautiful. So when it comes to you and your journey in cannabis, how did you get into the cannabis industry? Were you a patient? Were you trapping before? And why beverages? How did that happen? Because what an interesting like not flour, not joints, not vapes. Like you're one of the OG beverage kings, brother. Like why drinks?
Started out growing weed beneath my feet right here. I'm in my little cottage here in Venice Beach, and
Wow.
bought this crib uh, on my 25th birthday in 1999.
Wow.
Closed escrow on my birthday, December 31st, 1999. It was the only fucking house in Venice that I could afford. Bought it with 20 grand down payment, and basically was like selling weed to pay the little, $1,100 a month mortgage. I was
Mhm.
selling before I bought this house, but um, it was listed as a tear down, and my electrician would come over, and I was fucking, paying him in cash with money from weed, and redid the house with all that cannabis money, and literally was growing it. What houses in California, in Los Angeles, have basements? But this old 1920s cottage has a basement beneath it. And one of my very close childhood friends, who's a very decorated cannabis consumer, who not cannabis grower, who I was really lucky to know, who kind of really fucking put me on to, the technical aspects of cannabis. Saw my house, came over one day and was like, dude, you have a basement? He was like, let's grow in that thing. He's like, you don't have to touch a fucking thing. I'll do it all and we'll split the dough. And for someone as crazy ADD as me, there's no way I'm going to really have like the patience to be a good farmer. So, I lucked into some childhood friends who took care of it and all of that. But yeah, I started out with growing cannabis, and really my job was taking it and selling it, right? He grew it. I figured I'd help move it, and started taking it to some of the at the time there was, in 2005, there was only like 4 or 5 dispensaries in all of LA County. And so I was like,
At that time, you're 31. You're like my age at that time.
yeah, and I was the brave soul who went into one of these dispensaries and was like, yo, do you guys need weed? And that introduced me to like the early dispensary scene, and people who ended up becoming my partners in Venice Cookie Company, but also I partnered up with them to open other dispensaries in LA.
Yeah.
And that
Man,
just
there was an era of time where you guys had dispensaries across LA too.
It was the pharmacy, if you remember the pharmacy with an F. So there was one.
Yeah.
There was the West Hollywood one, and then with my real estate license, I secured the lease in Westwood Village at what used to be a video store that I grew up as a kid renting videos at with my mom.
That's crazy.
And I was born at UCLA Hospital, and I was an English major at UCLA Hospital.
You an LA boy through and through. Yeah. Venice. Come on.
And
naming your company after it, everything. That's amazing.
Yeah. I was living in Venice, and the owner of that store, he told me he was looking to open a store in Venice. And I said, does it have a fireplace in it? And he was all, I'm calling my real estate agent right now, because I knew what place he was looking at. And I was getting interested in jumping in the game. So anyways, we ended up becoming partners. Wow. And honestly, that ended in a whole crazy, ugly, sordid, crazy story. But the good thing that came out of it was I created the feeder company to supply the stores with edibles. And I got a lot of, as our incubating account, I got a lot of data on what people wanted based on selling the edibles to our store.
Nothing better than real data from actual real-time supply and demand, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I started going around to all the other dispensaries in LA that started cropping up, and didn't tell them that I owned a dispensary, because then they wouldn't want to carry our edibles. They'd see us as a competitor. And became friends with everybody. You know what I mean? Like fucking from 5 dispensaries to 200 dispensaries in the course of like 400 days, 500 days. And I started going around with a video camera and making a documentary and getting involved in the policy on the local level, and GLACO, which was the Greater Los Angeles Caregivers Alliance. And, I learned by being real enmeshed in the policy and putting people up on like the policy game. Buying my products was an afterthought. If I was a subject matter expert on the policy, then they knew my products were legit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So that was almost like the early sales technique, was just knowing what the fuck is going on in the industry on a
Well, because at that point, the knowledge, the level of true, thorough knowledge probably wasn't outside of people's immediate network, because there was so unknown and nothing really cemented into a foundation, right? It was some general rules, some laws, some things, but a lot of it was up for discretion in those early days. Police and people in the city didn't. It was like everyone was kind of on different agendas and different pages in a lot of capacities, and consumers don't know anything. They just try to buy weed places.
In a weird way, you could almost say there was like a parallel between the tight-knit, non-civilian-esque mentality of the porn industry in like the 80s and the cannabis industry in the early 2000s, right? Like everybody knew each other. It was no bigger than a high school. If you were going to be in this industry, you didn't really interact with the general public. You knew it wasn't quite acceptable yet. Obviously, I think we were a little more mission driven than the porn industry. I don't want to say that.
Naturally, yeah.
You know what I mean? But there are certain parallels where it's sort of like an insular community where people stick together, and it was
Yeah,
probably
counterculture, definitely against the grain. And back then it was way more than it is now.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
it's
it was
been
small.
exponentially normalized since then.
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy to think about that. We talk about, you know, challenges, and the raids were happening through the Obama administration all the way until the end. They
Yeah.
they happen now with illegal grows and illegal businesses and illegal distros, right? We see bus in different states and places all the time, right? But you were around during the time of the raids and the bus and things back then, and dispensaries, and being a part of that era. Now,
The pharmacy in West Hollywood got raided um, when I started getting involved there. It's funny, I had a shaved head then too, and I basically called the producers a super high me and was like, as of 5 minutes ago, the pharmacy on Santa Monica Boulevard is being raided, and that audio is in that documentary, Super High Me. Remember that comedian Doug,
wow,
whatever.
yeah.
And then there's footage of me at the dispenser at the raid in my Gracie Jiu-Jitsu hoodie because I was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. And like I noticed all these DEA dudes, they just look like cats I would be rolling jiu-jitsu with. You know, they were kind of like my age, they were thrill seekers like me. And I was like, wow, we're real similar. They're just this is a video game for them. They get to put on boots and a helmet and kick doors in. And in the documentary, I asked someone, hey, do you think what you're doing is right? And they didn't want to have that sort of conversation. It was interesting. It was just a game for them. I think we've all seen the writing on the wall, including the DEA, right? They just had fucking license to live their life as a real life video game. But it's like most of them, they weren't crusaders who thought they were saving the world by stealing weed from dispensaries. They were putting it right back out on the fucking street through, informants. They were using that weed that they stole from us as currency to get to a bigger and bigger fish.
Yeah.
You know, if they really thought it was an unsafe substance, they wouldn't trade it back out onto the fucking streets. I hope,
I think
but
I think it's crazy because, yeah, think about the challenges and the history, and you know we talk about local governments, like, and we now it's like, oh, taxes and people paying their bills, and it's like there's been a variety of types of challenges in relation to our local enforcement and the governments and legislation and taxes and changes and real estate and schemes and things like that. I want to transition a little bit over towards the creation of CQ and some of the first products that you made. There's this journey of Venice Cookie Co. Then there's cannabis quenchers, and then now you have these CQ drinks. So let's start with, you guys make sodas, lemonades, and the spritzers now currently, correct?
yeah.
And then
Also,
those are. Is there anything else?
God, we make shots, spritzers, syrups, and sodas.
Shots, syrups, and sodas. And then in those other brands, you made edibles with Venice Cookie Co. And was there anything else in cannabis quenchers? That was lemonades and syrups and
We,
sodas too.
yeah, we started with lemonades and we made them 16-ounce bottles, and then we
Yeah.
made 2-ounce bottles, and now we
Yep.
put syrups in 2-ounce bottles in certain states. And then at the request of one of our licensing partners back east, he was like, hey, dude, no one's going to drink your spritzers in the wintertime here, bro. He was like, no one drinks White Claw in the winter in Massachusetts. And I was like, huh, I'm such a fucking LA boy who knows nothing about seasons.
Yeah.
He put me onto seasons. He's like, yo, in the fall, we're going to be drinking our pumpkin stout. And I was like, got it. Interesting. And he was like, you should make sodas. They won't be seasonal. And, at first I was obviously had like the egotistical, why is this dude telling me how to run my business? We're a fruit forward beverage brand. And then I thought about it and I was like, I'm a fool if I don't take this person's advice.
Yeah.
And because we
That's
do
crazy.
licensing deals, it wasn't like I had to pay a penny, really, other than designing the can, right? Other than coming up with the formula and designing the cans, like I'm not the one fronting the cost for the ingredients and the materials and the
Yeah, these
manufacturing.
guys wanted your as a brand to expand into that because they want to bet on that. They want to double
Right.
down on it.
We've always had, right, that was our very first licensing partner, and there's always been that brand trust and experience, trust in our experience and our brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, I'm a dummy if I don't run this experiment and let them pay for it, So
I love it. I
so to
love
this
it.
day, he takes a lot of credit for our sodas, which is fine. We made sure they tasted good, but yeah, the idea came from them. And honestly, the sodas have kind of changed the game. They're like they crush it in the Midwest. You know, um, States like Missouri, Illinois, Ohio. Uh, you know, they love their soda there. They love their pop.
They love their pop. They love
Yeah,
their pop. I love it. I
yeah,
love it. I love it.
yeah.
Um, Developing infused beverages. We touched earlier on emulsion. We touched earlier on ingredients. There's the vehicle that it comes in, the can or the bottle or however that looks. You know, tell me a little bit about those early years and what you were using back then to do it, and then maybe a little bit of the context for what we're using today.
Emulsion wise, we're talking, right?
Emulsion and just the beverage. Like how did you make beverages back then versus now?
Not much has really changed. I mean, the reason drinks are starting to taste better across the board, and you and I were talking about that, is really just because a lot of the manufacturing equipment is getting more mainstream and less bake sale and less
Mm-hmm.
small scale. Um, yeah, we tried a bunch of different excipients and emulsifiers for the drinks. Some, here's kind of the double-edged sword. I don't know how much people care about this, but obviously the smaller you make the oil particle, the more you increase its surface area,
Okay.
right? So the more you increase the surface area and make the particle smaller, the more bioavailable it is. That's the blessing, but it's also the curse because the more you increase the surface area, the more you can taste it
Yeah.
potentially. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So there were some that really made the particles of the cannabis oil small and just made it taste awful, 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 awful. And then you just have to over time figure out tricks and change up the ratios and change up, try swapping things out for other things out. Bottom line is there's really, for the last handful of years, there's only really been like two or three, emulsion suppliers. And now they're starting to get disrupted because they've been charging too much. And the race to the bottom has begun with the input suppliers
Mm.
on some level, just as it has across every other, vertical in cannabis, just like, distillate when it was first came out. Remember when Chris from the Clear started, Disty, it was a big deal and that shit was expensive. And now it's $1,000 a liter or less in Cali.
Yeah.
But, cyclical, that's kind of the trajectory of, all sort of innovations in cannabis.
In CQ drinks, are there other cannabinoids and terpenes in your guys' beverages? Is it a distillate? Is it a live resin? Tell me a little bit about the extraction inside of that.
In California at this point, we're only doing distillate drinks, but we
Mhm.
do reintroduce a lot of terpenes back into the drinks. That's how we do indica sativa hybrid.
Okay.
And we did a lot of kind of testing and tried tens and ten, tried probably 30 different um, terpene formulations to come up with our indica sativa and hybrid.
Wow.
We even change them up from time to time. We're always improving the drinks. We're always making little tweaks. I heard
What is the measurement or something that you look for in like that QC part of that? Like what's the indicator for like, oh, this is what I'm going for versus this? If how does that like, how do my beverages get better over time, I guess?
changing the sugar content to there's a correlation between your carbonation and your sugar content,
Okay.
um, to make it taste proper, right?
Interesting.
Um, so if you have high carbonation, you need more sugar. If you have lesser carbonation, you need less sugar. But there's just a lot of different things we've learned over the years. Now that we're working with beer manufacturers, there's dissolved oxygen levels, right? This is something that's real important in beer. So beer doesn't oxidize and become stale.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we don't want cannabinoids to oxidize. You don't want THC to convert into
Or those
CBN.
terpenes, or those terpenes.
Right. And you don't want THC to convert into CBN. So it's like every step of the way, as we work with more experienced partners, we learn more from them. And
Oh,
then
cool.
they learn more about their weed game from us. So it's definitely been a symbiotic relationship where, our history and our, unmatched decades of experience end up being of value to our
They
partner.
pair up pretty well with both sides of it. Their
Yeah.
beverage and science expertise, and then the cannabis side to reciprocate it, right, with what they're doing.
Yeah.
One of my next questions that I have for you is, let's just be clear about it. Directly from the CEO and founder, folks, what do you feel truly sets CQ drinks apart from the competitors in the cannabis beverage space?
One is our story, right? Like we got a brand story. We've been around. We've been raided. We took the fucking feds to court. They took $1 million out of all of our bank accounts in 2015. We sued them for 3 years. Finally got it all back. We got a movie. We have a movie in our past. I mean, a lot of brands have a movie. I'm sure Can has a movie given all the money they've raised and all the money they've spent. I guess I'm blessed that, I kind of feel like we're the closest thing that there is to like maybe a Jim Beam Prohibition era brand. When I first met the Keef dudes, there was instant love, instant respect. We didn't know each other, but like just someone who's been around that long,
Yeah.
there was like, dude, nice to meet you. Very cool.
Y'all, and I don't say this because everyone, y'all were 15 years ago. Y'all were still kids. We still kids doing this shit right now. It's like the time and the experience and all that. Truly, you guys have been able to navigate all that and create some wonderful memories and create some great products. When you think about CQ, you mentioned the East Coast guys helped you recognize the seasonal beverage nature with sodas and stabilizing that. But you
Yeah.
mentioned, you're a Cali guy and lemonades and being a fruit forward company. Talk to me a little bit about the target customer for your brand overall. Who do you believe should be trying this and buying this based on where you sell your product? So like you're in Michigan, you're launching in these other states. You got a couple of states where you've been around in for a while. Who are your target customers that you want to speak to here on this video to let them know you exist?
I would say that strategically, for strategic branding purposes, and I'd say that's the other thing that kind of sets us apart is we have like beautiful mainstream branding that can transcend the dispensary category, right? And that was strategic. Like there's other brands that we compete with whose name and product and presentation is more on point for the dispensary consumer than CQ,
Mm-hmm.
right? But our goal has always been to transcend the dispensary category. So I think that's reflected in our presentation and sort of our values and, how we, what we stand for.
Yeah.
So what was the question again? I forgot.
No, that's the answer. You chilling. That's yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, we make high dose products that appeal to high dose consumers.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I've never wanted to really do it in like a blatantly lowbrow, har, stony, bloodshot eyes kind of
Mm-hmm.
way. You know what I'm saying?
How did you guys choose the icons for the logos and the branding? Or not the logo, but the branding on the cans. How did you guys choose those little caricatures and things?
This is this girl Priscilla who lives here in Venice, and
Mm.
she's done, she does murals for, a bunch of big brands and a bunch of big corporations. Like I think in some of Amazon's offices. She's done murals on the walls, and
Yeah.
Yerba Mate, Guayaki Yerba Mate, she's done murals for them. But she's just a friend. She's got kids the age of my kids. She's in our friend group. I've always been a huge fan of her art. It's very surfy. It's very California. She's from upstate New York, but she's lived here for a bunch of years, and her shit just has like an amazing vibe. To
I
me,
love that.
she's almost like a California Keith Haring, you know.
Mm. Yeah. No, I love.
Like,
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
she's got kind of a Cali Keith Haring vibe, and
Wow.
so basically, I commissioned her art. It's a lot of recurring iconography. Um, and working with her combined with our designer, like I didn't even think of this one, like Dr. Quencher, my designer, ended up like making it like a carnival hypnotist,
Yeah.
kind of like a carny,
Mm-hmm.
hypnotist soothsayer vibe, with the tie
Magician.
and doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like her iconography is so reusable and recyclable and works on and off the can. Works into social media. We've made murals in front of liquor stores with, hired her to do murals in front of liquor stores and stuff. So working with her has been a joy. Finally being able to commission an artist that I love, that was dope. That felt
Hell yeah.
super cool to me. That felt super cool. But yeah, I have fun on the branding and the art side of it, and I trust my sensibility to kind of make it look great. And also between Kelly and my partner, I trust our mutual combined sensibility to make the drinks taste great.
Mm-hmm.
So really, our superpowers are making sure the liquid tastes delicious, making sure the brand presents in a super groovy mainstream way that can communicate to the dispensary consumer and beyond them. And then we just got like unmatched decades of experience. We know where cannabis came from, and we know where it's heading, you know?
That's a good transition point for us of where cannabis is heading before we get to some of those fun questions. This will be the last more businessy focused one. In terms of where cannabis beverages is heading, let's touch base on like your thoughts on the state of that. Where do you see beverages there? We've got some pretty interesting happenings going on in Minnesota. Obviously, the future of drink potentially is going to hopefully / most likely expand in traditional, grocery stores and markets and things like that, similar to Minnesota. However, we're dealing with a no hemp situation here for the THCA products in California, and every state ultimately is going to be allowed to make their own rules for those kinds of things, right? So shout out America for that. But where do you see it going? Because that's a lot of variables and change, brother. That's a lot to manage. So where do you kind of see these hemp THCA beverages, cannabis beverages as a whole? Talk to me a little bit about, give me a little Ken Doggy X TED talk real quick on beverages and shit real quick.
Oh God, I'm not prepared for that. I'd have to have my PowerPoint presentation. But I mean, just
And a clicker. Don't forget the clicker.
yes, yes. The
Okay.
thing that comes to mind right off the bat, in a sense, like in 2008, when I started Venice Cookie Company, my goal on some level was to make edibles boring. And that sounds maybe weird and counterintuitive, but like at the time, it was really easy to to have to set yourself apart with branding and packaging, because all of it was like old English letters. All of it was, the packaging was an afterthought, right? And you still see a lot of cannabis beverage brands today think like it's a weed delivery product, and that, quality of taste and stuff is kind of secondary to it being a weed delivery product. And I think that's sort of short-term thinking, but um, see, I always get lost. I always get lost when these
No,
questions.
so short term thinking now in terms of the flavor and making the beverages is that something that you see continuing on? I mean, it's probably a behavior that's always been around from a
No,
manufacturing
where
product
do I
standpoint.
where do I see it going? Um, the more mainstream something gets, it's easy to say it's getting less cool, right? Everyone wants to be, oh, I was listening to that band before they were cool, before they were
Yeah,
popular.
yeah,
So, you know, so yeah, my goal back then in a way was to make things boring, right? To take the illicit, negative, aggressive, fuck you sort of, I
Yeah.
smoke weed,
Normal. Just make it normal.
make it normal, make it normal, make it boring,
I
right?
think Venice Cookie Co. was definitely that. And those
Yeah,
lemonades were also that too for the era of time that they came out as well.
right. So, some people still forget that in a more nuanced way. Whereas, like, dude, if you're trying to make a normal beverage and sell it across the nation and make it
Hmm.
uber popular, you got to make sure it tastes great.
Yeah.
It's got to be gulpable. You can't like rest on your weed laurels that people are going to buy it because it gets them high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to think of all the things outside of the fact that it has cannabis in it. You want to make a brand that could stand on its own pillars if it didn't have cannabis in it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. 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 I think the gummy and edible brands have been good at that, being able to pass out non-infused versions of it
Right.
for a very affordable price to help build our brand off of this is what it's like without weed. Imagine what it's like once you get weed in it, right?
Right.
And
And so sorry, just to before I forget to expand on that, like where are things going? Things are going to continue to become more corporate, more mainstream, more aligned with big alcohol, more kind of like about the money and less about the culture. Cannabis is lucky that there's so many beneficial, compounds in it that it's always going to have this built-in marketing machine. It's always going to have a great fucking story to tell,
Mhm.
always. And there will always be like mission driven companies.
It's easy to grab onto THCV. It's easy to grab into CBN or to buy into or subscribe to the CBGs and the euphoric or the elevate your mind or get creative kind of creative brandings.
Yeah,
Some in the early days, a couple years ago, that was super cheesy. To legacy people, it's still cheesy.
right.
To the millions of consumers that shop at the hundreds of thousands of dispensaries or the tens of thousands of dispensaries now, we're making it easy for them. That's like they walk into a Target aisle and it's like buy
But
this for that. Like we're making it's getting more in line with what you're talking about from a corporate and commercialization and consumer habit lifestyle.
and just to challenge you on that, I would say to legacy people, it ain't cheesy. Because,
Oh yeah. I would. At
but
first, I thought it can be
humble,
cheesy, but just like anything else, it has
right?
it. There's definitely poorly executed cheese ball versions of it, cornball versions of it,
Yeah,
and then there's other ones where it's like really, really done well. Like, everybody hates on celebrity brands, but the celebrity brands that kill it is the ones that have the good quality product, and then they keep curating it based on what their passion is, their song, the activity, whatever it is, and there are people like people hate a lot on Wiz's weed, but it's like that Khalifa Kush. That's that is a defining product in the rap and hip hop. You listen to rap and hip hop, and you're a millennial. That's a product you know about.
like I would say you're
Time and
right.
place.
When Candescent came out with Create, Charge, Connect, Cruise, like
Yeah,
legacy people
but
were
see
like, that's lame.
that brand had no soul to it. Where that's what they were doing already all the time.
Yeah,
That was taking their pre rolls and their packs and their fucking eights and putting it in other people's lives for that and relying on other people to define the lifestyle. Versus Lil Wayne's already cool. Respect My Region. We already been to 1,000 concerts. We still go. We still
yeah,
in the festivals, right?
yeah.
Smoking and sharing all of the weed from our local, or, from the people we know, right? We're sharing small craft sodas. We come from Seattle. I came up on Jones Soda. To me, you're the Jones Soda of weed, even though they in it. CQ bigger than Jones Soda in the grand scheme of cannabis beverages to me.
Yeah.
And
I,
so it's a
I'll,
wonderful
yeah, I'm sorry. I'll say this, like, just to get back to that point, like, one thing that legacy people don't think is fucking cheesy is terps,
100%. So
right?
okay, so I asked you the question and you answered about terpenes, but your COAs. Obviously, people don't really ask about that or really care too much about the THC accuracy in beverages. What's on the can and the sticker is it's what it is. It's not really in question often. So what's on the COAs and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of edible products, I've noticed that the 15% range actually kind of happens all the time, low key. It's never always really accurate. Can you talk to me about how you guys get your beverage to be as accurate as it can be, what goes into that? And then the second part is what's on the COAs in those residual cannabinoids? Because distillate does have other things in it, right? So when you're trying to recreate a consistent product, and then you also want it to hit, right? These are 100 milligram drinks or 10 milligram drinks or whatever it is. What's in that to help ensure that smack, if you would, or the indica or the sativa or whatever it is?
That's a multi-layered question. Where do I begin with all those
Pick
questions?
and choose, brother, because it's tough because I want to know. It's like, beverages don't list the terpenes on their thing. So how am I supposed to know? They don't put all the cannabinoids on there. You're not required to. So it's like, do your sativas have THCV? Or is that a CBG? Or is it both? Or is your indica heavy CBN and CBD? Or is it just 100 milligrams THC? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, bro, I drank your colas had caffeine. The sodas had caffeine. That shit had me tingling. I was fucking high.
That's what you drank. Like you said, you drank fucking half of 4 different 100 milligram drinks, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, we smoke, bro. I've taken 3 or 4 dabs sitting here, but that caffeine made, again, when you pair THC with other things, it creates a certain experience. Thus, my question. I know what I got from the caffeinated colas. I was fucking high. It tasted great. My body was caffeinated. I was ready to go to the gym or go for a walk or do anything. But in your other beverages that are not caffeinated, what is in those to help create that consistency with the types of high?
Well, like I said, we talked about lemon flavor is lemon tincture. It's basically lemon oil and ethanol, right? Now our flavors are no longer ethanol based. We have to use like glycerin based flavors now, right? Just so we don't have too much alcohol content in the drinks. It's just safer that way. But it's that lemon oil has terpenes in it. Lemon oil has terpenine, limonene,
Citrine.
Yeah, there's different terps right in the lemon oil, right? So we like to say that we leverage the terpenes that are naturally found in the fruit juices in our drinks.
Cool.
And I think that gives, them a slightly, enhanced effect.
Okay, so the terps are going to be more naturally included based on the ingredients that are your inputs.
We add terps as well. We add different terpenes as well. I'll just say this, one thing that was interesting to learn was we based our sativa terpene map. We biomapped certain strains of cannabis and then recreated them and,
Oh, sick. Okay, so that's similar to what people do for vapes.
Right. We did that for drinks. And we started out with my boy who was growing the fucking weed in the basement. He was growing the fucking, I'll just say it right here on fucking RMR.
Let's go. RMR exclusive. Let's go.
One of the fucking most coveted, legit cannabis strains in fucking LA back in the day was Zeta. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No, I'm not from here.
There was Zeta, and then there's something called SAGE, which was an acronym, Sativa Afghani Genetic Equilibrium. My boy who grew the cannabis was living in Amsterdam in the late 80s and the early 90s, growing, breeding cannabis, hanging out with, what's his name, who created Sour Diesel, and these were like his contemporaries.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was there for like the creation of OG Kush and some of these, big benchmark milestone, whatever, seminal strains. But kind of his opus was a strain called Zeta, which was 87.5% OG Kush and 12.5% Sage. And that shit was selling for $100 an eighth at dispensaries for a long time.
Wow.
And so we biomapped that strain. We converted it into, terpenes that could be drank. And for a long time, we used that as the basis of our sativa terpene package in our drinks.
A sativa for that? That's going to smack you.
The expression of this Zeta strain was super high in terpinolene.
Okay,
right?
so it wasn't the OG Kush, the pinene caryophyllene Kush. This was the terpinolene versions of
It
it.
really expressed itself
Okay.
terpinolene dominant, which meant, right, that's Jack Herrera,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Scat,
Durbins, Dutch, Jacks, that whole family
Golden
tree.
Goat. Yeah, all those strains.
Golden goat. You know about the goat.
Bro, I used to slang that shit. I'll just fucking come out and drop shit right now. Like back in the day, my boy fucking Nima and I were slanging the Golden Goat, right? Maybe I shouldn't even be saying this, but
Pushing, hey, you were pushing goats.
you know who Nima is? You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not from here like that to know these people, brother.
Well, he's the CEO of Cannabiotics.
Oh, that Nima. This is crazy. Oh
These are
my
like,
god.
bro, he watched me start Venice Cookie Company. You know what I mean? While he was
Wow.
fucking laying back in the cut, not even putting his neck out there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And
So did he
whatever.
grow that stuff then below you? Is that what you're saying?
No, that was not Nima.
Okay. I
But
was like, damn, that is crazy if it goes full circle like that.
but like just a couple years ago, he was like, "Yo, will you introduce me to your boy who does the Zeta?" And now they're friends, and so it's like
No
it's all it's
way.
all coming together. So
The LA brand bringing back the LA cuts.
yeah, so it's like fucking I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything too cheesy, but yeah, it's like growing up in LA, the scene goes way back. Anyways, what we learned pretty recently is terpinolene, when inhaled, is super sativa, super uplifting and clear-headed and soaring and creative. When you ingest it orally, it's super fucking heavy.
Sedative.
It's sedative, yeah. So
Wow.
it hit people really hard, but it wasn't like smoking it. And so we've learned that terps inhaled do not translate perfectly to terps ingested.
And they're not necessarily opposites either. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I mean some do have the same effect whether they're inhaled or ingested, but
Okay.
some are biphasic, right, and hit you differently. Terpinolene is the main terpene where there's been studies done on it. Shout out to the abstracts crew. They kind of put me onto this game.
That's
That like,
crazy.
yeah, there's aromatherapy articles that terpinolene hits you different depending on how you use it. So we've had to kind of tailor that back, and we've changed up kind of our sativa strain that we put in the drinks.
Kenny, we have to do this more often because we're 50 minutes in and it's like story time. It's the culture you're giving.
Bro,
This is you because you've been around for so long. This is California cannabis culture, folks. This is great. Everybody, before we continue, I just want to do a couple things. First, I got to shout out our sponsor for giving us the opportunity and the ability to do this. Shout out Seedless Media. Visit seedless.media in your URL if you guys need to hire marketing people for your brand or retail. Big shout out to Kenny here, CEO, founder of CQ Drinks, formerly Cannabis Quencher, formerly Venice Cookie Co. This is the culture. This is the legacy. We're on the RMR Podcast Network. And Kenny, I'd like to go to our fun next segment that we've got here. I'm going to do a little pop shot. It's going to be fun questions. Hit me with your quick response. Try not to do too far on a rant unless you really got a good story, okay?
all right, I'll try and keep it fucking
It's all
concise.
good. I just want to get, these are some fun ones, all right? So,
Word.
in terms of feedback that you've gotten, what's the most ridiculous feedback you've ever gotten about one of your drinks? Be real. What's the most craziest feedback you've ever heard? What's that one word response? Was it a "oh my fucking god" or was it a what's the craziest feedback you got in the entire duration of your brand?
Nothing's ever been crazy. We love all the feedback. I mean, we got crazy feedback on edibles where dogs
Okay.
got too high.
Oh, that's the classic story for edibles, though. It happens. That's no
Yeah.
joke. Shout out to the pets. Okay, we're gonna skip forward. Quick ones. If you could infuse a drink with anything other than cannabis, one of your drinks, what do you think? What do you think it would be, and what would be that infuse? Would it be a tequila drink? Would it be a whiskey? Would it be smoothies with adaptogens and mushrooms? What would you do?
Nootropics, brain health.
Brain health. I love that. That's super interesting. Okay.
We're working on that. We're doing that.
Oh, that's sick. Okay,
Yeah.
that's amazing. You want to talk more about that or no?
Yeah, we're busting out a fucking awesome new product in Michigan. where it's going to have nootropics, some great, like a whole suite of ingredients in it. Everything from nootropics to, adaptogens to a bunch of different things.
That's in Michigan?
Yeah, and again, we're going to put this in a soda first. I won't
Yeah.
mention flavor, but this package is going to it's not just for sodas, right? It's way
Yeah.
more of a targeted wellness formula that will be used in other vehicles as well.
That's so it's like your own little we'll call it like a little health ingredient pack all inside of it that can be used in different things.
A little proprietary formulation.
We love that. We love that. Okay, here's another good one. Are you ready? What's
Yep.
the most creative or bizarre flavor idea you've come up with and you've created, but it did not make the cut?
Pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice what? Soda?
We made a pumpkin spice seltzer. You can't, it didn't work. Carbonation combined, it didn't taste right. But I wanted to try it. Who wouldn't fucking try that around?
I would. If I saw it there, I would do it. I might even put it on video. That's great.
It was ironic flavor, but it didn't work.
Hey, bring back the creative branding for April Fools for next year.
Has someone done a pumpkin spice vape? I'm sure someone's done a pumpkin spice vape.
I would try it. I love pumpkin pie flavored things.
Yeah.
That's my shit. Okay, here we go. Here's a good one. Are you ready? If you could have a CQ drink with any historical figure, living or dead, who would it be? What would you talk about?
Phil Jackson.
Ooh.
Phil fucking Jackson, dude. I want to just...
Well, you were quick on that one.
Bro, I'd go chill with him out in a hammock by the lake in Montana and talk story. I want to hear about Kobe stories. I want to hear about Michael Jordan stories. I want to hear Zen fucking tidbits of, wisdom from that dude.
Oh, yeah.
He's a cool cat. Read his biography, just love his leadership style, just love his understated style. Dude, I want to hear Jeannie Buss stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I want to hear Jerry Buss stories.
Magic.
All of it, dude.
Yeah.
Phil fucking...
Kareem.
One other one, Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah. A living and a dead, R.I.P. A lot of what I do is inspired by the little bits that I've known and consumed about him to be respected and revered at that level.
Soulful blue collar cat, right? Like, to me, that's the pinnacle. It's like when you have that blue collar nature, but you also have like that sophisticated, elevated hospitality, but artistic soul. And he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just, he traveled a lot, well-traveled, soulful writer, I think that'd be someone else I'd like to get down with.
Okay, this is a good one for you. If you were going to do CQ Drinks, the music festival, or like the food and drink festival, or some version of that, what would that experience be like? And who would you book as the performer?
Who would I book as the performer? I don't know, but I fucking, Roy Choi used to be a big Venice Cookie Company fan here in LA. Mm-hmm. Chef Roy Choi. Him and I hooked up a couple times. We chopped it up a few times. There was a smidgen of a moment where we were talking about a collab or something. But like if it was a food festival, I think Roy Choi would sort of get the essence of our brand and our soul.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something with him would be cool.
Amazing.
But music-wise, I don't know, dude. Like, dude, I'm a big fan of like Ben Harper and Bobby McFerrin.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like lighthearted, don't worry, be happy, but also reggae vibes.
Yeah.
Mellow. I don't know, man.
I love it. Okay, here we go. Second to last question. Are you ready? If you were competing in a cannabis beverage Olympics, what would you dominate at?
Cannabis beverage Olympics?
Yeah.
Dude, someone asked me years ago, like, what award would you like to win in cannabis? And straight up, without hesitation, I was like, lifetime achievement. Because for me, this is about fucking, never stopping. This is about being totally committed and dedicated to making my brand boring. Like, this is about seeing this through to where people just, they say all those stages of acceptance. It goes from being like ludicrous to super controversial to like completely an obvious afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
We're not there yet. You know what I mean? But, I want to be able to tell the whole story. The whole story from before me and the people before me who I learned from all the way through to, this becoming, super mainstream $1 billion, Diageo type, Philip Morris entities, dominating the space, which is going to suck, but it's inevitable you know what I mean? So
Yeah, we're some time out from that.
yeah, but I love stories. I love, I love creation stories and I love evolution stories. And it's like, I love creating and I love evolving. You know what I mean? Like, I want to maybe I can make a brand or a company that I can pass on to my little kids one day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. CQ, inspiring, crafting greatness, but trying to build a legacy, still building community. Been active in LA for a long time. Now overseas in tropical places, you
Yeah.
visiting your clients and you got your licensing deals in multiple states. Before we get you out of here, Kenny, what are the states that that people can pick up CQ drinks in?
Washington, California, Arizona, Michigan, Illinois, Massachusetts. In 2025, we'll be expanding into New Mexico. We'll be expanding into Ohio. We should be doing Jersey. We should be doing Missouri. And, who knows what other states will pop up. The goal is to open at least 5 new states in 2025.
Beautiful. Well, that would be 10 by the end of 2025 states total. If
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, make sure you guys visit cqdrinks.com, right?
Yeah.
For the website.
drinkcq.com. Yeah, and if anyone's still watching after all this fucking rambling, if you want to work with us in a state where we don't have a deal, you reach out. Hit us up on the website. Hit us up on the phone number on our website. You can text us. I'll get the message. Yeah, we're looking to collab. We're looking to grow.
That's amazing. Kenny, thank you again for being here on today's episode. It was always a pleasure talking with you, regardless of whether we're on live and with other people or just while I'm sitting in traffic in LA, passing Venice. I'm like, I'm going to call Kenny while I'm in traffic. It's a pleasure to be with you here in this industry and to be inspired by you and working. And as I said, I come from Washington. I'm familiar with the companies and the beverages and the products. And thank you again for rocking with us on the North American Weed Tour this year. I look forward to doing stuff with you here in 2025. And everybody watching, thank you again for hanging out. Please be sure to comment, like, follow, subscribe, and share your thoughts. This episode is brought to you guys by Seedless Media. Make sure you guys tap in and check them out. Episode 131. drinkcq.com for all things CQ. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to reach out. Kenny, I'll see you on the next episode, brother.
Mad respect to you. I think you really carved out a niche for yourself, and I think it's just the beginning for this whole fucking industry. And Lord knows where you and I are going to end up in 5 years.
Come on, man. We going to keep heads to the ground, grinding, you know what I'm saying? Slanging these drinks, and one day we're going to be doing something massive together in one of these areas. Just watch.
Hope so.
Big shout out to everybody watching. Thank you guys, the cannabis community. We here, RMR Podcast, episode 131.